What do you think happens when just one or two games, and I mean one or two games, not franchises, dominates a genre for too long? Well, it kinda turns that genre into a bloated living corpse. I mean, just look at farming sims. In the near decade since Stardew Valley's release, not a single game has been able to establish a lasting foothold within the genre. Some have definitely had their time to shine, like Graveyard Keeper, which built a pretty strong player base, or Moonstone Island, which had an okay launch, but nothing's really stuck around to actually challenge Stardew. And that doesn't even begin to count the countless other titles that were never even given a chance because they had to not just be better than Stardew to be noticed, but be enough better to pierce the nostalgia around it, and actually pull people away, leaving the genre as a whole to be a living corpse, limping around on a single game. But what happens when a game is actually able to break through that nostalgia? When a game is not just good, but genuinely amazing, and brings a fresh spin to a genre that hasn't changed in years? Well, that is where you get a game like Fields of Mistria. Fields of Mistria is, well, as I kind of alluded to, a farming sim, and a pretty damn cute one at that. I mean, just look at the little chicken wobble around. And is that me in a maid outfit? But, yeah. So anyways, being a farming sim, the game has to come up with a reason for why you, a random nobody, is going to receive a large piece of overgrown farmland. The way the developers chose to tackle that problem in this game is actually pretty ingenious. So the game opens with Adeline and Elend, the children of the local lords, discussing how to approach reconstruction following a massive earthquake that damaged much of their town of Mistria. Since they can't afford actual relief workers, they decide to put out a proposal. Free land in exchange for free labor and working to repair the town. Now, I don't know what Mistria's housing market looks like, but all I'm saying is, that sounds like a damn good deal.
How about you, Udovich? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
You show up to find the bridge isn't exactly bridging anymore following the earthquake. But fear not, your good friend Balor, the traveling merchant, is here to get you across. He leads you to your new home where you're met by Elend and eventually Adeline as you get settled. In true farming sim fashion, the land's a bit overgrown, but still farmable, and the house that came with it is actually pretty cozy. I love the cottagecore vibe of our home and the warm glow with a little fireplace. I mean, it's nice. The next morning, after you wake up, you're greeted by your neighbors, Celine and Hayden. And I've just got to say, I love this game's sprite work. Like, I know I already showed some of the other characters and stuff, but just look at them. And don't even get me started on their outfits. But hey, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So, the two of them introduce themselves, and they give you a handful of seeds, a hoe, and a watering can so you can get started on farming. Admittedly, when it comes to the actual farming in this game, it's not really breaking any new grounds. It's your standard hoe, plant, water combo. That being said, you can make some pretty good looking fields in this game though, as you have a shovel that can make any grass into farmable soil and vice versa. And your watering can has a lot of patterns at max rank, going all the way up to a 6x6. It's not that huge a detail, but as someone who likes to try and make their farms look at least a little good, it's appreciated. That being said, none of that's really important at this point in the game though, since you have like 6 seeds and you don't even have an axe or a pickaxe yet to clear debris. Of course, that means that after you've got all those seeds in the ground, it's time for you to head out and explore, and it won't take you long to make your way up to the town itself. When you get into town, you get yoinked into a cutscene as Adeline takes you to the town's request board, and you're introduced to a mechanic unique to this game, at least compared to other farming sims I've played, called Renown. She tells you that as you complete requests for villagers and sell items from the farm, the town itself will gain renown, which in turn increases their aid from the government, which translates in-game to actual upgrades in Mistria. It's a really cool system gameplay-wise. It's sort of what I meant when I said the opening is ingenious, as it means you doing stuff actually builds up the town. And I'll touch more on that in the future, but on a world-building level, it also kinda shows a deep flaw in their governing system. So like, Adeline mentions that before the earthquake, they were copper ring, but the damage dealt by the earthquake set them all the way back to wood ring, making it really hard for them to get aid from the government. But like, does that mean that the government bases your natural disaster relief on how useful your town is post-disaster? Like the rep stops by and is like, damn, you used to get 20k a year in aid, but your windmill collapsed and your streets look bum as hell after that earthquake, so we're cutting you back to 5. Like, what the fuck? Corruption and shittiness in the government aside, though, your first quest is actually given to you by Adeline, and it's your standard go and meet everyone in the town's starter quest. which means it's time that I can finally talk to you about all the amazing character designs in this game. There's something like 27 characters in this game, meaning I won't be able to touch on all of them here, but I just want to say whoever on this game dev's team was in charge of their outfits was cooking. Everyone in this game has different outfits for each of the 4 seasons and a swimsuit for down at the beach, and there are so many good ones. In my notes for this game, I have like 3 pages of bullet points just for people's outfits that I liked. So to save on time, I'll just highlight some of my favorites. I love all of Hayden, your neighbor that owns the Animal Farm's clothes, because you can actively see his tan line changing with the seasons, which is a small detail they didn't need to include, but that really tickles my brain. Landon, the local carpenter that recently retired, has the hardest drip known to man in the spring. I absolutely need me a cougar dressed like Elsie in the summer design. And Reese, Landon's nephew, his summer clothes got me feeling hotter than the sun does. And of course, I can't forget all of Juniper, the local bathhouse owner and totally not a witch's designs. Especially her fall one with the shoulder pads. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. That being said, good visual design alone cannot carry a character. Sure, having banger sprites makes the game pretty to look at, but if they're all attached to planks of wood, eventually they just fade into the background. I mean, just look at something like Stardew. I like a lot of the character designs there, but it's hard to argue that most of the characters aren't pretty one note. Abigail is Adventure Girl, Maru is Nerd, Sebastian is Hot Topic, Alex is Sports Ball, Leia is Hippie. It's all fairly shallow. And in my playthroughs at least, this leads me to not really progress through people's hard events unless I'm actively romancing them or they give me a recipe I want at certain levels. Luckily, Fields of Mistria doesn't fall into this trap. Sure, the characters have their interests, like it's rare you'll talk to Ellen and have a conversation not be about archaeology, sweets, or dragons and drama, but those conversations feel a lot less like, here is my character trait, I am telling it to you, and a lot more like someone that's info dumping on their special interests. Again, I obviously don't have time to go in depth on each of the 27 characters in this game's personalities, so I'll touch on a couple of them that really stood out to me. First, there's Elsie, the aunt to Adeline and Ellen. She's an older noblewoman with many tales from the capital, and an actual gossip mechanic, where once a day you can ask her to tell you one of 3 people's liked or loved gifts. She gives off a bit of a Golden Girls vibe, and I just love the idea of actually sitting down and having a conversation with the woman. She just has so many stories and always seems ready to share, and let's just say, if you want my honest opinion on her, these clips do exist. Why did they make all the old women in this game hot, and then not make them romanceable? That's so dumb. Let me have my older woman. Give me just give. I'm fiending for it. I desire it. Another character I really liked in this game was Valen, the town doctor. At first, she seems like an informal and pleasant, yet distant health nerd type, with lines about watching what you eat or warning against day drinking, making her feel a tad bit generic. But as you progress through her story, you see that her family's actually been the town doctors for generations, and a few generations back, her great aunt or something created this panacea powder capable of curing basically anything. The recipe was lost though, and the supplies are running low, so now she's working to try and remake it. You see her insecure side as she worries she won't live up to that past, and you see her admit that she needs outside help, choosing to work with Juniper, who she normally clashes with. We even see her have to swallow her pride as Juniper effortlessly finishes the formula she's been working on for decades, because she knows it'll help her patients. It makes her more than just the, oh, you should watch your health character that she easily could have been, while giving her a reason to be entwined with other characters in the town, making her a complex character. The last people I want to highlight are actually the 3 kids. In Stardew specifically, the kids, Jas and Vincent, are barely more than props, with Vincent being energetic and Jas being shy and that being about it. In Fields of Mistria though, the 3 children actually feel like characters. There's the brother-sister combo of Luke and Maple, and there's Dell. We'll start by talking about Luke. Luke is an inspiring etymologist, and a lot of his conversations are fairly nerdy rants about bugs. But they don't make that his entire personality. When Dell and his sister are playing games he finds boring, like princesses, he throws out suggestions to play pirates, like a kid would. When we're upgrading the inn, he joins his fellow Dragon Guard, the other kids, in decorating the inside and takes the charge very seriously. On the other hand, we have Maple, his sister, who's very much a queen bee type, having an obsession with royalty and becoming queenly. That being said, it's all done in a very kid way. She asks for offerings of snacks, tries to make a prince by kissing a frog, and collects a bunch of queen berries for the Harvest Festival to gain queenly authority, a larger slice of pie. It's cute and endearing because you see where the thought process is, and can picture a kid actually thinking of most of this. And lastly, there's Dell, the rowdy head of the Dragon Guard. She causes trouble like saving Juniper's newts by stealing them from her cauldron, requesting iron on the request board to make her own adventuring sword, or planning to break into Balor's room in the inn to see what he's hiding. But again, it's in a very childlike way. She sees these little journeys as grandiose adventures, and herself in this very grand way. And together the three of them feel like a real group of kids, growing up together and compromising around each other's interests to have fun and play instead of just feeling like a couple of props to talk to once or twice and never pay attention to again. I cannot stress enough just how much I love the character writing in this game. And the funny thing is, I haven't even touched on every aspect of it here, because there are parts of it that won't make sense until I get back to talking about the story itself. Which I guess means it's about time we get back to talking about the story. Fields of Mistria actually has a couple of major story/gameplay lines that are all going on in tandem with each other. There's the obvious rebuilding of the town, but there's also Earl, the ex-foreman of the old mines, and his new museum that he asks you to help fill out. Oh, and of course there's the dragon. By the way, there's a dragon, and he gives you magic, but we'll touch on that in a bit. As you complete the first couple of requests, you'll start to build up enough renown with the town to be approached by Earl with a request to help him fill out the new museum. He wants anything from ancient artifacts showing the history of the region to crops from your farm to show the current diversity of the local ecosystem. It works as a catalog for the player with a touch of renown and monetary reward for incentive, plus a ton of decorations and outfits that I admittedly never really used. Personally, I think this works so much better than something like the community center in Stardew. It calls for almost all unique, non-crafted items, encouraging a bunch of exploration and interaction with the game's systems, while also not being the main story of the game, preventing the story from becoming the over-glorified collectathon that Stardew's is. The other really cool thing, though, about the museum is how it interacts with the characters. People will actually mention the stuff you bring into the museum in conversations after you've donated it, making it so the museum is more than just a building on the map separate from the people that live around it. On top of that, sometimes when you donate items like crops from your farm or forageables from the season, people will send you recipes for dishes and decorations involving them, giving the donations a more practical use within the game's systems. I'll admit, I'm a bit biased here, because I do love myself a good collectathon, but these little details around the museum make it one of the best executed versions of item collection/cataloging I've seen in any farming sim. Plus, the extra renown makes it easier to level the town, which unlocks the various projects and improvements. As I mentioned earlier, when you get here, the town's still pretty messed up following the earthquake, with broken bridges and abandoned buildings leaving the whole place at wood rank. As you level the town up, though, you get requests from Adeline to help with various construction projects, the first of which is to repair the bridge into town, reopening access for merchants, and more importantly, unlocking the Saturday market for the player. You go out and gather wood and stone for Reese, and once you have it all, and talk to Adeline, he gets to work rebuilding the bridge. Next Saturday comes along and all of a sudden you've got 4 new NPCs with stalls set up that have rotating stocks, like Darcy with cooking recipes and sweets, Vera with new hairstyles, Mary with random decorations, and Lewis with a Catboy maid outfit. And this is just the first project. You can repair the mill in town to get a new crafting station, repair and upgrade the general store to unlock new seeds, fix the broken streets to remove rubble from the town, and so many other projects that I don't want to spoil here because seriously, you should play this game. These upgrades work to show visible progress throughout the town and to help the different NPCs get back on their feet, while also providing a gameplay benefit for the more practically minded players out there. And there is a near constant stream of them. Seriously, by the time I got the town to Iron Rank in the mid-50s on level, I still hadn't run out of projects. It is so satisfying to watch this community actively change around you as the town is built up to be better and better with your work. The only other game I've played with aspects even close to this is like late game Stardew, where you can build Pam a house. But that just feels like a money sink with no purpose, whereas here it feels like an actual objective. As you get further and further into these projects though, you start to need metals like copper and iron, which means you have to convince Earl to reopen the mines that collapsed during the earthquake. He agrees to open them at Town Rank Stone, which is fairly early in the game. I mean, I got there during my first stream over at Felix_Fighter at Twitch. Also like and subscribe. Anyways, soon you'll find yourself searching through dangerous depths for rare metals and gems. Just like with the farming, the game kinda takes the Stardew approach of mining rocks and ores with a random chance to reveal ladders to take you to deeper depths while fighting monsters with an elevator that activates every 5th floor. That being said, the combat in this game feels a lot better, with a 3-strike combo on the sword and other aspects I'll talk a bit more about in depth when I get into the more technical side of the skills here in a minute. But just know for now though, the mines in combat are a lot less of a slog in this game. So anyways, as you progress to the mines, after 20 floors you'll find a room with 4 altars, a tablet, and a ghostly voice. The door in the back of the room is sealed, and the tablet is in a language you don't know, so you take a rubbing of it to the local archaeology buff Elland. He's excited at first, but realizes it's in witch speak, a language he can't translate. Luckily, Juniper, the totally not witch, just so happens to know the long-forgotten and ancient language, so she translates it for us. It says we need to offer a fish, a gem, a plant, and a bug native to the 20 levels of the mine above the seal to break it. An easy, if not a bit arbitrary task. With the materials gathered, we go back down and break the seal. Turns out that voice from earlier was this ghostly woman that begs me to venture deeper and that gives me a heart crystal, increasing my max HP. And it's here in the script that I realized I never really mentioned you get a permanent stamina increase with every major town rank, so yeah, that's also been happening in the background. Anyways, she disappears and the next 20 floors are available, with stronger enemies, the next tier of metal, and a new theme. That's not the most important part of breaking the seal though. No, the most important part comes when you return to the farm, and your dragon statue, that I didn't mention before but you found on day like 3, visits you in your dreams. So it turns out this statue is actually somewhat connected to an ancient dragon that had been sealed away, and by breaking one of the seals in the mine, he's regained a bit of his power, and a bit of his memories. As thanks, he bestows magic upon you. You unlock new spells with every seal that you break every 20 floors, and these spells range from useless shit like summoning rain in a game with a buffed watering can, to overpowered stuff, like a full stamina and health restore, or a 3x3 instant growth spell you can use to get multi-producing plants off the ground early in the season. He also gets pissy with you if you point out his spell names are generic, it's just a fun little detail. He, like the ghost woman, asks you to keep pushing deeper into the mines to break seals, and eventually even saves you when one of them turns out to be a trap.
Oh no, he's hot!
This game lets you romance the dragon, by the way. 10 out of 10, frame 1, instant best game. Holy shit, I am fucking fiending for this man. I mean, he's aight. The other thing he asks you to do, though, is to offer up essence at his shrines to empower him and to unlock new skills. Which leads me to the last thing I want to talk about with this game, and what is definitely the most important part of it. The skills and the skill tree. Fields of Mistria has 9 skills: farming, fishing, archaeology, cooking, ranching, woodcrafting, smithing, mining, and combat, each of which with its own set of perks that unlock at certain levels. They don't exactly all have the same progression, but most of them start with 4 skills and unlock another 4 at levels 15, 30, and 45, along with one big skill at level 60. These skills can be bought with essences, which drop from pretty much every activity in the game, and none of these perks are exclusive. None of that one or the other bullshit. If you have the essence for it, you can get a skill. Now, admittedly, some of these skills I've definitely spent more time with than others, but I do think most of them are done pretty perfectly. One example of this that I could not stop gushing over on stream was how this game approaches cooking. It has always bothered me, and specifically Stardew, just how bad the cooking system is. I did a playthrough on stream once, where I could only make money through selling cooked dishes after they added campfires, and I saw firsthand just how shit that game's cooking is. You've got this farm full of crops and animals, and a world with foraging and fishing galore, and yet cooking is almost always a net negative process, so expensive the dishes aren't even worth it. And unlocking recipes is basically just gambling on the cooking channel. There is none of that here. In Fields of Mistria, cooking is an actual skill, meaning it's actually fleshed out. Let's say you want to learn a basic meal for each of your crops in a season. Well, donate one of each of them to the museum and sell at least one of each of them at your sell box. Now your mailbox will be full of people passing on recipes that can be made for at minimum an equal trade, though usually a small profit. Want to get a little more in depth and make some real meals? Well, they're fairly simple to make still, and are super effective at refilling your energy and health, making food items actually worth it. Want to focus a bit more on cooking and see what some of the perks are? Well, this game's got you covered with skills that make cooking faster, or that give you a chance to refund ingredients, or that even make a chance for dishes to come with a special trait. These traits range from speed boosts and passive stamina regen, to turning dishes into universally liked or even loved items. There's even a perk that makes your home-cooked meals give more heart points when given as gifts. There are so many reasons to actually interact with this system that just do not exist in other games. And that's just one skill! This level of depth is spread through the entire game. High-level farming has a chance to drop recipes and decor blueprints while harvesting crops. Ranching perks can increase heart levels of your new animals or allow you to hand-feed animals cooked meals. Combat skills can be used to clear out your farm, and handcrafted weapons and armor can give random combat enchantments, and so much more. You know how earlier I mentioned I would talk more about combat in this section? Well, that's because you can actually unlock abilities like a daily damage negation, a jump attack, and the ability to reflect projectiles, making the mines as a whole so much more dynamic to explore. Though admittedly still a bit clunky, the combat system actually feels like it was intended to be in the game, and not like an afterthought thrown in to make resource gathering a bit harder. On a different note, this is also one of the only games I've ever played to make a fishing minigame that doesn't actively make me want to avoid it. I mean, it's still fishing, it's not exactly riveting, but you can actually see the fish in the water, making fishing more about map exploration than just sitting in the same spot all day waiting for a fish on a random timer. Overall, when it comes to the skills and systems in this game, I just found myself being impressed around every corner. Like, I know I've been glazing this game, but I cannot stress enough just how fun it is to play. All the systems work together in tandem, complementing each other to make for a gameplay loop that seamlessly weaves all its different pieces into a single, cozy little farming sim that I genuinely find more fun and rewarding than the genre titan that is Stardew Valley. Which is why it does sadden me a bit to have to end this whole thing with a little warning. The game isn't done yet. It's an early access, and not in that we haven't finished playtesting and are looking for bugs type way, but instead in the there are parts of this game that just flat aren't done yet type way. When I first bought the game and played it over a year ago, there were only 60 levels to the mines and up to 6 heart events with each of the villagers, along with some perks not being implemented and season festivals being sparse. On top of that, there's no multiplayer nor any real confirmation that they ever plan to add it that I could find. That being said, playing on stream 2 major updates later, there are already more town improvement projects, another 20 levels to the mines, the introduction of the human form of Cauldrus, up to 8 heart events with all the NPCs, and much more that I'm probably forgetting. Yeah, so post-editing Felix here, there is more. You can go on actual dates with your romanceables at 8 hearts, a thing I learned off-stream, so I don't really have footage of. But that's another win in this game's book. But anyways, like I said, the mines only go to floor 80, no romance line is complete, and I don't believe all events and festivals are in the game yet. Personally though, I don't think that should dissuade you from giving this game a chance. It took me 7 streams at 4 hours each to even reach a point where I found their content barrier. And that was just in the mines. There are still countless events and conversations and festivals that I have yet to see, and the casual gameplay is still really fun. And to top it all off, NPC Studios, the developers behind the game, are criminally undercharging for it. At $14, this game is cheaper than fucking Stardew and miles better in quality. On top of that, the game regularly goes on sale. Hell, it was 20% off for most of the time I spent making this video, and the devs even talk about being hesitant to raise the price on official release. I genuinely love this game. There is so much visible heart and soul put into this project by people who clearly care, and I would love to see them succeed in finding a strong audience. So yeah, buy this game. It's rare that I really think a game is a must-play in a genre, but if you like farming sims, this is the best the genre has to offer, and I can't wait to see it develop further. That's about it though. If you've liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!